we're back with Brood Brothers Broadcasting, episode 6. Today we will talk about the Clutch City GT. Actually, I think it's a major that me and Clifton played in. So you have me, Eric Tatt, and we have
Cliff America Russell.
And we're going to go over our GT lists. I brought Gene Stealer Cult. Clifton went against us and brought Orcs, but he also, again, got second place, right?
Yes, and best general.
Did you get best general last time too?
I did. I'm working on a hat trick for next year.
He showed me up, but he also cheated. I guess we'll have to give him a bye on that one.
It was for the greater good.
Did you want to tell us about the new logo we got?
Yeah, I happened to employ one of my good friends, Goat Boy. That's Thomas. Many of you know him, and many of you have seen all of his art all over the place. I thought we could follow the same trend because his art is unique and awesome. And so our logo now employs his artwork, which you can see if you find our podcast.
Yeah, I really like it. I like what he portrayed us looking like as fellow, I guess we'd be neophytes in that picture.
I'll take it.
Because we only got 2 arms and we look pretty humanoid. I mean, Clamavus is pretty much like a neophyte, and that's what we had as our last picture. So we're good. So I guess let's talk about the first things. Unfortunately, I only went 4 and 2 at this GT. My list consisted of a Pomper Princes battalion. I really like Pomper Princes right now. I'm running 4 squads of 10 acolytes with 4 rock cutters in them, and then a 2 5-mans with 2 rock cutters in them. So I have the 4-man as 10, and then I have 2 5-mans. The reason why I like the rock cutters is because, yes, they give -1 to hit, but I'm also Pomper Princes. So when I am charged, I get full rerolls to hit. So yes, I only hit on 4s, but I get a 75% hit rate because when you reroll, you get all the way up to that 75% hit. So you're actually doing pretty good than rock saws that don't have the rerolls. So that's why I like it. And then the best part about it is when you do your D3 damage, a lot of the stuff right now is like super tough. So you have all the disgusting resilience right now. You have the 3-wound Marines right now. You have Harlequin bikes, all this stuff that's like 3+ wounds. It can auto kill Catans, can auto kill, what's your orc buddy there?
I don't want to tell you. Gazgul.
Can auto kill him. Obviously, if I wound him a little bit prior, can auto kill Gilliman. So it has a lot of potential, especially in the very elite meta, and it worked out pretty well for me at the major. And then those right around in the 3 trucks, bare bones trucks. I got Primus in that. I got my Jackal Alphys, and then I have my 9 Ridge Runners, all with the heavy mine lasers. And then in a patrol detachment, I have a 15-man neophyte squad and a 10-man neophyte squad. And in there, I have my Patriarch with my Magus, who's got the buff, so she gets +1 to cast if she's near the Patriarch. She knows 2 spells. Well, she knows 3 spells because she also has the Crouch Lane. And the 3 spells I always bring for her is Mass Hypnosis, Might from Beyond, and Psychic Stimulus. And then the Patriarch has Mind Control and Mental Onslaught just for fun shenanigans.
So why didn't you spend 30 points for 3 demolition caches in case you get the opportunity to explode one of your trucks in your enemy's line?
I wish I had 30 extra points, but I just couldn't figure out where to pull that 30 extra points.
Yeah, but it's only 1 CP.
Pretty CP heavy already because I use a lot of it, but I would if I could find the 30 points. It's just hard to find it because with the nerf that our Brood Brothers got recently, we'll get into your nerf, but I was bringing just bare bones Brood Brothers, and they all went up a point, so they're the exact same points as Neophytes. So I have no way to get a cheap squad. I could free up that points if I took Acolytes to do the same job, which is mostly for deploy scramblers. But I like that meaty 15 bodies right next to my characters, so that they don't just kill 5 Acolytes and then just kill my characters.
It boggles my mind how GW can just make a unit completely worthless. Why would you take Brood Brothers now?
Yeah, they literally the only thing that they do is they can take different special weapons, which are just not as good as the other special weapons. That's pretty much what I ran. Almost exactly what I ran last clutch. The only difference is I added an extra unit of 10-man acolytes with the rock cutters, and I switched a couple 5-man acolytes for the neophytes, and I got rid of my Kellermorph because the Kellermorph I don't feel is doing as much in this day and age, especially with his 2 damage.
Terrible for meta.
Yeah, he can kill some intercessors maybe if he gets lucky. He does 1 damage to all the Death Guard and all that, so who really cares? Let's talk about why before we go into mine, let's talk about why you decided not to bring Gene Stealer Cult to this major.
Last November, I got Best General with my Gene Stealer Cult, and that list had 120 flamers in it. Well, What happens when you take a weird list and do really well with it is you end up on multiple different podcasts and streaming shows and whatnot. And it showed up on a lot of the ones that end up popping up, in front of GW. And what happened not like 2 weeks after I started showing up on all those podcasts, Flamers got 50% more expensive. So to spare the rest of my Gene Stealer cult brethren the hurt and pain from having something else nerfed, because I may have, done really well again with a niche list, I decided to run a different army so that we could skip getting nerfed for at least one more GT. So you're all welcome.
Yeah, because they only look at you. They don't care about me, no matter how well I do, even though
I dress a lot more loudly.
You do. But I can finally make fun of you this time because last season you had this to rub in my face. I got best Gene Stealer cult in all of ITC last season. So you might have finished higher than me 2 seasons ago, but I definitely finished higher than you this season.
Oh yeah, for sure. Here's your gold medal in the Special Olympics.
I've been dwelling on it for over a year.
You don't drink enough.
No, you can't with this army. You need all your brain cells.
That's true. Very true.
I actually was thinking about, I even talked to you about this after the GTs, that I was going to think about making your list too, because I liked how I was doing in the meta. And then after you lose an entire unit of acolytes due to the nerfs, I don't think it's nearly as good, because that's
not
1/6 is dangerous less.
Yeah, taking 1 or 2 units with Flamers, great. But my list went up 120 points. That's just stupid.
Yeah, that's insane. And mine actually kind of went down a little bit, especially with the changes. That's why I was able to bring that extra bit of guys, which is the extra 10 man, which did a lot of work, way more than the Keller morph.
But you know what would have done more work? 3 cash of demolition charges.
I'm trying to think. I don't think it would have. Most of them blow up in my side. Like, they almost never get into melee.
Learn to blow up.
It's hard. And if they do, they're like they die in melee against like a knight. So I'm like, yay, maybe D3 mortal wounds to a knight. I don't care.
I was hoping to go up against knights. I didn't.
I did. So do you want to? We can get into to my games. Before we get into all my games, a little bit of how I pretty much play my list. I usually almost always start in a very similar pattern. And yeah, a lot of people can kind of figure it out, but not a lot of people know how Gene Stealer cult always deploys, so it's a little bit hard for them. But usually, I guess before we do that, let's talk about the terrain at Clutch City, because that's a pretty important piece. There was a really good layout, I feel.
It was a lot of terrain. It was definitely a lot of terrain. It definitely, in my opinion, hurt shooty armies, because most of the firing lines were through forests, which is fine. It gives melee armies a chance to actually get in there and do something. But yeah, I agree. I liked the terrain as well. There was a lot of it. So if you played Gene Stealer cult, you were able to hop, skip, and jump if you needed to wherever you needed to go in relative safety on most boards.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a pretty shooty list for Gene Stealer cult. I mean, I have 9 Ridge Runners, and I was having some pretty good line of sights to some key targets. So it wasn't enough to where you're just like, I can't shoot anything, but it was enough to where like I could hide like a decent chunk of my Ridge Runners, and then when I wanted to, move to a section and then fire at something I wanted to. So there's some pretty good fire lines. There's only like 1 or 2 small things I was like, I don't like this setup right here. For the most part, though, it was much better than the last Clutch City, I think. I think they did a good job of fixing it from the last Clutch City.
Well, yeah, and they more than doubled their head count.
Yeah, I meant terrain-wise and layout-wise.
For sure. I wasn't a fan of the round tables, but you got to play with what you're given.
Yeah, but it was nice having so much room in between each table. Each table was by itself, solo. You could walk around the whole freaking table. Yeah, there's like maybe a 2x2 inch of each corner almost cut off where you did like hold it up if you want to put stuff there.
Yeah.
And I did that a couple times. I'm like, my Ridge Runner is in this corner. And he's like, I understand. Just put it off to the side. I'm like, all right. The piece I actually liked a lot, and I was talking to them, and they're going to get rid of it, is I like that really wide U building that was like huge. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, the one where you were allowed to drive through the walls?
Yeah, so for the people that can't see what we're talking about, because first of all, this is a podcast, I would say it was 3 8-inch long walls about. That's about right, you think? 8-inch?
Yeah, it was a bottomless trapezoid.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like a bottomless trapezoid from a bird's eye view. It was each side was 8 inches. However, you could drive no matter what you were, a knight, infantry, whatever you wanted. You could move through the side 2 walls, but only infantry could go through the center wall. So the center one was a normal ruin, but the side 2 weren't. And that was just because the piece was huge. It had such a big footprint, but it helped because it would give you so much line of sight blocking, especially for an army going second. You could just like put all your crap back there.
Whole army.
Yep. And like, or at least most of it, right? And then, yeah, now you're like kind of back in a corner. This is only on 1/3 of the boards though. So there's 3 different board layouts, and every layout switched for every mission. So since we played 6 missions, it was a 6-round tournament. There was 18 different layouts you could play on throughout the tournament.
And the size of that terrain was not intentional. It came out much bigger than they anticipated. So they just made do and made some of the walls move throughable.
Yeah, I actually liked it. I felt like it actually did a lot of interesting stuff for the game. I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, my army literally took up every deployment that I had. I had no space. So that wall was not great for me, but I did see the benefits to other armies.
Yeah, I felt like it, especially when there was one, I'll talk about it later, it was like kind of on the sides. So like you would go inside it to move up the board, and the other team could go inside it too, to like, and you could have like your own little mini battles inside these side pieces that were on the edges. So it was like almost like a little mini game you're playing over like a kill team, because only 1 or 2 units would be over there fighting, and then they'd be isolated from the rest. So it was pretty. I liked it. I was kind of sad when they said they're going to get rid of it. I was trying to come up with reasons why they should keep it, but I don't think they were listening to me.
I mean, you played Gene Stealer Cult,
right? So now we kind of have a layout. It was pretty good. There's big L's, little L's. We had a piece in the middle, a Zone Mortalis piece. Usually that was in the middle. There's 2 forests, 2 craters, 2 barricades. So it was pretty good spread of terrain, a lot of terrain. I think
this was a great tournament for you if you were intimately familiar with terrain rules and what they did.
I think they had every single type of piece of terrain on there except like 1 type.
I think they did too. And as somebody that doesn't read the terrain rules,
luckily they all gave us a score sheet, and on the back it gave you all the terrain rules, so you always had it close by. So that was nice. And then on top of that, the tournament was really popular. We had Nate in there, we had Nanavati there, we had Perry, we had Frankie from Frontline there. Any other big names?
I mean, Cliff America Russell.
Oh, well, that's a given because you're on here.
Oh, sorry.
People who,
sorry.
I don't care as much about. Pretty good competition.
Well, the fact that we had people from, the East Coast coming way over here, or Houston, GT.
And then I think a lot of them are coming for Dallas too.
Oh, yeah.
Back to what I was trying to get at. So now they have that spread out. So what I would like to do a lot with my army, so if anyone wants to try to manipulate what I'm doing and using the same style to see how well you can do, is I usually start the Ridge Runners obviously in the back. I try to group them up in a clump the best I can. Sometimes I'll do 6 and 3, but I'll just try to hide them so that turn 1, if I don't go first, because I never want to go first really, they will always be almost all either super difficult to get shot at or almost impossible to get shot at. And I'm okay if they come out to try to shoot at them, because I might lose 1 or 2, but usually that's so far overextending turn 1 that I can just easily take that out immediately. Whatever they're shooting at that is usually anti that anyways. So if I can get rid of that turn 1 when I go, that's like perfect. So that's usually where I put my Ridge Runners. That's a given. But what I usually do is I'll put my 3 trucks in like a tri-point. So I'll have 1 in the left corner, 1 in the right, 1 in the center. And then I always start with a 2 5-man in one, and then 2 10-mans in the other 2. I'll usually put a 10-man in reserve, another 10-man neophyte in reserve with the Primus, and then I'll put the other 10-man with saws somewhere on the board. So they are my next turn missile. And so I will have my 15 BroodBrothers start on the board with my 3 characters, almost like a T formation. So the 15-man will be in front. The 3 characters will be right behind it, because then they have a pretty wide berth of where they can go and reach. And that's pretty much where I start. So one of the big things is I need to figure out which truck to actually put my 2 5-mans in, and then which trucks to put my 2 10-mans in, because that's actually a really big deal. Because a 5-man going out and doing something and a 10-man going out and do something is a real big difference. Usually the 10-mans are there to kill really important units, and then the 5-mans are to go kill like the scraps that they have, or to go sacrifice one early for center scramblers. And I'll do that a lot usually, especially if there's like a middle objective. I'll throw that 5-man out there immediately in the center, and then they'll just immediately get me the middle scrambler. I always like to do middle scrambler if I can. Then I like to do on turn 2 when my BroodBrothers come in, I like to do their side scrambler, and then I always do my scrambler last. That's usually the order I like to do. It's usually the best, I feel, because once you get the 2 hard ones out of the way and you get your easy one, they really can't do much about it.
I agree.
So yeah, and the middle one is usually always the easiest one, because you just put that 5-man like a little hard pocket to get, so they want to extend to get to that. And then usually what they send to kill a 5-man acolyte squad, another 5-man acolyte squad can go out there and take care of that whatever killed that 5-man, because they're not going to send something crazy. So it's usually like a counter play. So that's pretty much how it works. And then when I shoot out my first 10-man bomb, my 10-man acolyte bomb, then the 10-man that's hiding will move in advance into that truck. So now that truck's now full. Then I'll usually either deep strike the second 10-man turn 2 if I want, and then use that move advance turn 3 to get into a truck. So then I have another missile to shoot off later, or I will perfect ambush them. That's pretty much how it works. And then the trucks usually just are there to give me extra range, because you get the extra 3 inches. And then again, we talked about it in a past episode that we will always put the trucks outside that 1-inch blip so that you can get that extra 5.5 inches of movement. And that helps so many times to get that extra range to grab somebody or hit somebody that might move up a little bit too close and they're not sure, because now you get that extra 5 to 6 inches plus the 3 from getting out of the truck, plus the move, plus the advance.
It's like a diet gotcha, like 2% milk of gotchas.
Yeah, and it's not even that crazy. It's like people are always arguing about, I'm like, guys, you have scouts. We don't even have a scout move. This is like a scout move.
And you would think that Gene Stealer Cult would have scouts.
Yeah, and I tell people, I'm like, I can deploy my trucks on the edge of my deployment zone on your side, and I can get out and move. So I let them know prior. So whatever they want to do is usually what they want to do. But anyway, so let's go into my first round. Do you want to go over the list for me, since you have it brought up?
Your first opponent had... Oh, yeah, you went up against the only Nid list that was there round 1.
Yeah, it was Tyrannid versus Tyrannid Food.
Not my Hive Fleet. It was Hive Fleet Chronos. You had your Neurothrope. You had 2 Neurothropes, Swarmlord, a unit of Gene Stealers, 2 units of Gene Stealers, a unit of Ripper Swarm, max unit of Warriors, the standard 6 Hive Guard, 2 Lictors, 6 Zoanthropes, a Demakaran, a unit of 3 Biovores, a unit of 2 Biovores, and an Exocrine.
Yeah. Now, the trick with the Gene Stealers, because I looked at it at the very first when I was walking to the table, I was like, oh, that's a lot of stuff he's got. But when I got there, I looked at it again, and it's only 5-man Gene Stealers.
Yeah.
So it's not like huge bricks of Gene Stealers. And he was all Chrono, so I didn't have to worry about no crazy Kraken crap coming at me. The first 3 missions were all Hammer and Anvil. It was Hammer and Anvil, and then it was the squished Hammer and Anvil.
The worst Hammer and Anvil.
Did you end up deploying all your stuff in that one?
I had 0 space left after deploying. Like, I had to cram models together.
That's very orky, though, so that worked. We set up, and I set up in pretty much the exact same formation that I normally set up, where I have 1 truck kind of in the middle, forward, then the 2, much usually further on the flanks. I wanted to go first, and I didn't want to go first, but the way he deployed, he didn't deploy very defensively. He was actually pretty far in the open, so me going first was really bad for him. I deployed pretty defensively because I expected if he went first, he was going to do the Demakaran slingshot move, which obviously you probably plan on doing anyways. But he had his Exocrine open on the left side flank. He wasn't hiding, it was just in the open. He had his 6, I think it was only 6 warriors, not 9 warriors, with the strat, or not the strat, the thing where they can negate -1, -2.
Yeah. The biomorph adaptation.
Yes, the Exocrine had the same one, but he had the 5 of Involm, and then he had this Demakaran like front and center almost, not exactly on the edge, but like pretty much on the front edge. And then most of the other stuff is kind of hidden. So turn 1, I made sure my 10-man unit was on the left flank. I put 2 5-mans in the center, and then I put my other 10-man on the right flank. And so when we started playing, I went to shoot his Exocrine because I was like, if his Demakaran comes to me, like, that's kind of good, because then my other 10 men are just going to get out and kill it my turn, because I'm not that scared. Like, Demakaran will kill 2 or 3 Ridge Runners, but after that, it's dead, and it's right in my line, so there's no way it's going to do anything else. I'm definitely going to kill it with 10 Acolytes. So I was like, I'll worry about that third. So I started shooting at the exocrine, and I just rolled hot. And the first two Ridge Runners just nuked it and just killed it instantly. So then I went to the Dimakaran with the other unit of Ridge Runners, and that killed that one. So with 9 Ridge Runners, I killed his Exocrine and his Dimakaran turn 1. I sent out 10-man Acolyte squad up the left flank, advanced it. I was like 3 inches away from his warriors. I charged his warriors. The Clippers instant killed all the warriors. And then I consolidated right into his Hive Guard because he put his Hive Guard right behind the warriors but out of line of sight. So I just consolidated right into them. So then they couldn't shoot the next turn. So after turn 1, he couldn't shoot his Hive Guard. His warriors were all dead. His Dimakaran was dead. His Exocrine was dead. So at that point, I was like, this game's pretty much won. And all I did for the rest of the game was just play the mission to get as many points as possible and to not make any scripts, because at that point, there was nothing he could do to come back. He just moved his zone of throws kind of to the center, moved his Swarmlord out. I killed the Swarmlord the next turn. He had some things come in. I prevented him from getting scramblers because I just made sure he couldn't deep strike into my backfield, and then I prevented that. And so that's how that game went. It was pretty by the books. Like once that opening happened, like it was just like I couldn't have asked for a better opening. My mind lasers, when they went through, I was like 6 damage, 5 damage, 6 damage. That thing's dead. 6
Must
damage,
be
6
nice.
damage. Yeah, it was hot. So that was pretty much how that game went. I think I won that game. Was it 91?
It was 91-27. How dare you?
So yeah, 91-27. That was over. And then we went to lunch. And then I got paired up against the same guy. I got paired up last Clutch City round 2. Exact same guy, exact same round, exact same tournament.
Was it the exact same list?
Close. He always tries to get best Knights player for ITC. So
yeah, he brought what is this? Yeah, a bunch of Knights, Knight Meraxus, Knight Perceptor, Knights Valiant, Quester Knight, Majera, and I don't know anything about Knights except they blow up and hurt me a lot of times.
So the Knights Majera is what a lot of people are running now. They want to run 3 of them because they're actually really broken. And then you had 4 baby Knights, I think it said, right?
Yeah, 3 or 4.
2 of them had the double like Gatling guns on them. I'm not really sure, but they just shot a lot. I think they shoot 12 shots. Every 6 is an explosion, something like that. So they shoot a lot. Minus 1 or 2 AP, 1 damage. So exact same setup again. I let him go first, or I didn't let him go first. He wanted to go first, and then he moved up. Pretty much couldn't shoot almost anything. The only thing he could shoot that he had line of sight was the 2 little baby Knights had rapid fire, the Gatling guns into my truck. He went to go shoot at all of them. I popped evasive driving. He did like 4 wounds, and that was it. And I think he shot at like a Ridge Runner and did a couple wounds with like his long range missiles or something like that. So it was very, very little fire. So then when I went, I immediately moved up all my Ridge Runners up the left side, blew up his, I forgot what it's called, Majera, whatever that Knight is. Blew that one up. Unfortunately, I wasn't expecting to kill it with the Ridge Runners. So I moved a 10-man Acolyte squad, moved and advanced it, so I was right next to it. I knew he was going to try to Overwatch his stuff, so I moved my truck up with it to eat the Overwatch because it had like a 3-inch charge, so there's almost no failing that, so he'd have to Overwatch that if he wanted to Overwatch anything. And then I buffed that whole unit up. That was ready to go. And then to the right side, I moved my truck up with another 10-man Acolyte squad, and I was going to use that to eat his 2 baby Knights. So in the middle, he had his big the Castigator, I think it's called, the big Knight with the flamethrower and harpoon gun. He had that one that was kind of up to the right side in the middle of the board. He had his other one in the center, and they had a baby Knight that was all the way in the backfield on my side of the U box. So that's important because this is the U that you can't go through the walls. It was the smaller U, and it was on as close as you could get to me on the objective. So I blew up the Knight on the left, which I was like, oh, okay. And then he rolled, and then the Knight blew up, so then he couldn't revive it because he was playing the revive Knights. So it blew up, so you could not res it. So I was like, okay, I will gladly take an explosive Knight if he can't 4-up, make a Knight come back. Barely did anything. I think it did like 3 or 4 mortal wounds to everything, like at most. So I think it killed like 3 Acolytes and did 1 mortal wound to my truck.
That's sad.
I mean, essentially it killed all of my Acolytes because now they're just sitting there. Right? So it's like, I guess whatever you kill here is dead anyway, so I really don't care. But then on the right side, I charged, and my guys kind of bounced off the baby knights. They did about half damage to one, but they didn't kill both. I think they killed one, and they only damaged the other one a little bit. So what I realized, and I told you about this, so I'll tell everyone else that as I came up and I saw, I'm pretty sure this works. I'll have to go check just to make sure the wording. But when I read it, it pretty much works, and it's only usable in 9th edition. So I don't think anyone even thought about it in 8th edition because you couldn't even worry about it in 8th edition. But what I did is his baby knight was literally next to a piece of terrain. It was a huge ruin, and I charged it with all my acolytes. But before I did that, because it was a Gatling gun, I charged it with my other truck. So I had this little baby knight all tied up. I had my acolytes almost all the way around it. They were all in the terrain. And then I had my truck just shoved right up the side of it, so it was pinched against the edge of the board, so it couldn't go anywhere. I didn't think about it, but I told him afterwards so that he wouldn't get gotcha'd, because I just thought of it at that moment. But if I would have said I based you with my truck, since you can shoot in a combat now with your vehicles, you can use the strat that says if you're all on terrain, unless you're the closest model, you can't get shot. Since technically the truck is closer because it's basing his knight, my acolytes wouldn't be able to be shot in close combat by the Gatling gun knights. And so he would have to literally shoot everything in the truck and then just get attacked by my acolytes in melee.
Would have been awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't think about that until afterwards. It's like, oh my God, I just thought of something awesome. But I'm going to try the best I can to get that trick to work. I don't care if it loses me the game. I just want to do it now that I know that it exists. So that's something to keep in your back pocket for all the tanks that can shoot into melee, because I don't think anyone is thinking about something like that now. It's really weird to be like, I'm further away from you because this other thing is basing you, and you can't shoot me even though we're technically in melee range.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that for that purpose.
Yeah, I just thought about it. I was like, oh man, too bad I can't use a strat. I was like, I wonder if it would work here. And I looked at it, I was like, I think it does. I was like, hey, Woods, just so you know, next turn, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. He's like, okay, I'll remember that. But after that, he moved up his knights. He pretty much cleared all my stuff out. What I did with my 5-man units is I pretty much just shot them out. Whenever he put his knight on something, like his big knight, I would throw them out there to either absorb a charge for my other ones, because if you want to shoot 5 acolytes, that's fine. But I'm going to throw those 5 acolytes out on a objective, steal it from your knight. Then when it's your turn, you're not going to get any points. I think I kept him down really low on points as well, especially on primary. And so I just used the little 5-mans to like go out there, absorb stuff, sit on an objective and die because they didn't care. And then at one point, I mind controlled his big knight, and he harpooned his baby knight and just insta-killed it.
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was funny because before we first shot the lance or the harpoons, like I never ever get this thing to work, and then I got to work and it killed. I go, hey, it finally worked.
And he's like, congratulations.
Like I did get to do it. It's like it's your model. It kind of worked, right? And then I deep struck some of my BroodBrothers all the way in this backfield. I did the line and wait strat, so I came up on the objective that his other knight was trying to hold, and so it couldn't. It took 2 turns for it to get around that U because I was on the inside of the U. And so I just stole him from getting that objective in the backfield. So I kept him on one objective for most of the game. And then I just picked him apart. And then finally, I think I almost tabled. I think he had 1 knight left at the end of the game. That was it. And I think I won that one 94 to something. I don't remember.
Yeah, something embarrassing.
Yeah. So, but I played him before when I played my last Clutch City, it was a close game. It came down to me like killing a baby knight with 2 ridge runners last turn, and it was like half health. And I was like, if I don't blow this up, I lose. So it was close. And then this time it was the exact opposite.
It was revenge
because he didn't get a single knight back up. The first one blew up. He went to res another one, and then he didn't roll the reroll. It like was a 3 or something like that, so it didn't get back up. So let's go to my first loss, the round 3.
And what a dumb loss! Like this couldn't be a more low scoring game for the both of you.
Yeah, I'll get into the game in a second, but let's go over the list real fast.
So it was Custodes, which I'm so embarrassed that you lost to Custodes as a Gene Stealer Cold player.
I lost to them. Both my losses were to Custodes, so thank you.
That's so bizarre. I don't even know how that happens.
I'll tell you how it happens.
So you went up against the Invincible Captain on bike, like you do. There's Trajan Valoris, Custodian Guard, Aquilon Custodians. He had an Astra Militarum patrol detachment with a bunch of Scions, Captain, Commander, 10,000 heroes. I don't know what half these things are.
So essentially what he had is he had 3 units of bare bones scions with hotshot las guns, the Tempesta Prime with the command rod. He had 2 captains on bikes for custodes. Each one had the 3-up invuln. One had the super tanky one, and one didn't have the super tanky ability. He had a 5-man sword and board custodes. He had a Calexis Assassin, and then he had 2 of the 3-man units of the custodes that have like the big bolter rifles. And then he had another one that's like their Terminator version, and they have like the crazy gauntlets and like the crazy punchy fists that are like super deadly. And then he had the -1 to hit banner. That was pretty much his list.
I don't think I've ever seen a Custodes list without the -1 to hit banner.
I've been seeing it a little bit more recently, but yeah, you're right. Almost everyone still takes it just because there's so much negative -1 already, like all the forests and stuff. So we set up and I was like, oh, this is going to be an easy game because I was like looking at his list. It was not that scary. So he goes first, which is exactly what I wanted. And he moves his cap. This was 1 objective in both of our deployment zones. And there's 2 on the sides in the middle. But this is a hold 2, hold 3. And that's the reason I lost. That's the key point here. Hold 2, hold 3. We start playing. He moves up. He moves 1 captain all the way to the left to hold his back left objective. And he moves another captain, most of his other crap over to the right. And I'm pretty heavy left side, and he's pretty heavy right side. I can easily get back over there to stop it, but I know his 5-man brick of guys are... Oh, no, sorry. I am wrong with the objectives. There's 1 in the middle, and then there's 4 in no man's land. That's what this one is. That's what it was. There's 1 in the middle and 4 in no man's land.
Yeah, because this is that stupid deployment.
Yeah, because I remember we fought for the center for a while.
Yeah.
So there's 1 in the middle, 2 or 4 and the edges in no man's land, and it's a hold 2, hold 3. So all of them were close together, which is why it was so easy for him because he could just pretty much slingshot from one to the other. So he moves up to his back right with all of his guys pretty much. He sends like his guy close to the center, doesn't get on it, and he sends his captain to the left side. So that's pretty much it. I think he shoots a couple bolter shots at me, does a couple plink damage to a couple ridge runners, and then that's it. I go next. I deploy one of my trucks over the edge. I send out a full 10-man buffed Acolyte squad after his captain that's all by himself on the left side, not near anything that can like help him. So he's just holding the objective by himself. I send all 10, buff them with Might from Beyond, everything. So I start plinking at his guys with the bolters, the big bolters. I kill like 1 of them with all my ridge runners, and that's pretty much all I kill. I think I do like maybe 1 or 2 wounds to something else. I sent a 5-man Acolyte squad into the center just to hold it, so he's got to send something into it to take it off, and I'm kind of like screening out because I don't want his big Terminator brick to come close to me. I want that to be as far away from my juicy center as possible. And then the 10-man Acolytes do 0 wounds to his captain. I was like, are you kidding me? They had 12 attacks, I think almost all hit, but then only like 5 wounded. And then I think he made every single save except 1, and then he just CP rerolled it and he saved it too. I was like, are you kidding me? All right, whatever. So I was like, that was almost a guaranteed kill. And then all my other Acolytes did almost nothing. He like made all of his saves on those 2. I think maybe I did like 1 or 2 wounds total, but none of them were the clips. So what I thought was an instant kill on his captain just rolled all 3 ups. So I was like, all right, that's how this game's gonna go. So it kept on going back and forth. I tried to kill his Calexis Assassin for like 3 turns in a row, and he was at 1 for like so many turns. And then another time I sent out a 10-man unit and it bounced. I think it killed 1 custode, and then it didn't kill anything else, and then they all died. So it was really close. We're coming back and forth, taking objectives from each other, and then finally he scored 10 points on one when we were just going 5 and 5. And then that's when he started getting a little ahead. But then turn 5, time ended, and we didn't play it. And I was going second, so I was going to get a 15 on primary, kill 2 characters for assassinate, and then I think get another engage in all fronts. So I would have ended up winning the game by 2 points. But
That's
since
rough.
since turn 5 didn't happen, I didn't win.
How did y'all time out? He's playing Custodes, and
He was not the fastest player. I mean, he wasn't slow playing me on purpose. It was like his like 2nd or 3rd tournament he's ever played in, but that was what did it. But I couldn't kill anything. Just everything I sent these huge killing squads to go kill just bounced. So it wouldn't have been even close if any of those succeeded. But since they all were bouncing, it was just way closer than it should have been. But that's pretty much how it went. It was just that bounced off the captain, and then I sent another 10-man to the center, and it killed 1 Custode.
That sucks.
Yeah, I charged in. He had 2 while we stand we fight units there, and then a non while we stand we fight unit. And then I only killed 1 model off of the non while we stand we fight units, and it was just the stuff that I had left over that couldn't get in engagement range of the other stuff. One was Trajan, one was 1 man of those big Terminators that was left after I just murdered them with all my mine lasers.
Yeah.
He had them all in the center. I just shot all my mine lasers at him. I killed like 4 out of 5. I was like, I'll just clean up the last one. Nope, didn't kill it. And then he had his 2 other guys in the center. I killed one of them. I was like, are you kidding me? That's it? So,
Jeez, learn to play.
yeah, that was pretty salty, especially knowing that I could have still won if we went 1 more turn. So I should have won that, but I lost it. So then we go home. We come back the next day. Round 4 happens. You're going to like this list.
I know I am. You abused my buddy.
Did he tell you what happened?
Yeah, you basically almost like tabled him in like 2 turns.
Well, do you want to go to the list?
I think a lot of people have seen the list here. It's the orc buggy list. Is it 11 buggies or 10 buggies?
I think it's more than that.
Was it 12?
I think it's 16.
Are you sure? Let me look.
I felt like there were 16 buggies on the field.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There were 16. Okay, you're right. It's the 16 orc buggy list, with the most of them being the scrap jet, because it's currently the best one.
Yeah, he had all 3 of the main ones. He had 2 orcs on war bikes, which I think I was counting as some of the buggies. So he had all of them, and then 3 of them, one of each had the upgrade, and we deployed. I think he said he's never played Gene Stick Hall, or maybe like once or twice. And I went to go first, and it was pretty much whoever went first won. Turn 1, I moved out. I moved almost all of my models out of their trucks and moved in advanced 2 of them to get close. Moved my truck up to absorb Overwatch for another one. And then I just shot at. So I was going to move and tag and kill at least 4 or 5 buggies with my acolytes in the truck. And then I knew I was going to shoot at and kill about 2 or 3. Because what I didn't know until we started playing is that his actually split apart. I thought they stayed as a unit, but they don't.
No.
And so when I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot at that unit, it's like they're all individuals. Like, I made a big mistake in how I set this up. But don't worry, I will recover. And so I did. And so at the end of my turn 1 going first, I killed, I think, 5 buggies. I had 2 down to 1 wound, 1 down to 3 wounds, and then 3 more buggies were all tied up in melee. And so I go, all right, it's your turn. And he looks at me and goes, I concede, take the 100 points. And then that was it. Super nice guy.
He's a lovely guy.
Oh, yeah, he's super nice. But I was just like, oh my God, like, it was, when I was looking at his list, I was like, he just kills all my stuff like turn 1. If he goes first and he just wants to play aggressive, which he should, like the only reason he doesn't play aggressive is sometimes people don't like to play aggressive against armies they don't know, so they kind of play cagey. But I was like, I don't feel like someone playing orcs is that type of person. Usually those people are like, I'm just going to do orc things, and then if you don't like it, you deal with it.
Exactly. So
I was like, I just lose essentially if I go first. And then I went first, and it was exactly the exact opposite thing happened. He lost almost all of his army turn 1, because he's like, what do I do? He's like, you go, I kill all the stuff I'm in melee with, and then you just have another round of acolytes hit me, and then your ridge runners clean up all that's left. I was like, yeah. He's like, so then I have two buggies to answer all of your ridge runners and then your characters and stuff. I was like, yeah, pretty much. He's like, yeah, I give up. So he conceded. That was a really easy game, obviously. Unfortunately, that's how the game went, though. And then so I took my 95 points because technically I took scramblers, so I couldn't get those 5 points. And I let him know that. That's why I was doing that, because it's not fair. So I did that. And then round 5, I went up against one of the Army esports guys playing some White Scars. You want to go over that list?
So that list consists of good old West Tally. And we have, my eyes are old. So, oh yeah, you know what? I personally, as a Genius Cult player, do not like playing against really fast lists. And there were, what was it? Was it 6 or 7 White Scars lists at this GT?
There's a decent amount there. There's also Black Templars list or 2 there, which is also just as scary.
The Black Templars are going to give me nightmares. So let's see. We have obviously Kasaro Khan, Librarian, Primaris Chaplain on bike, Assault Intercessor Squad, an Incursor Squad, an Infiltrator Squad, an Apothecary, a Blade Guard unit, a Reaver Squad, And then the usual 2 units of Vanguard vets with storm shields and lightning claws. Something's got to happen here because this is when every Space Marine army spams Vanguard veteran squads with storm shields and lightning claws, someone needs to take notice.
And plasma scepters.
Oh God! There was an interceptor squad or inceptor squad and a devastator squad with multi-melta, all that fun stuff, and an eradicator squad and a rhino.
Yep. We were set up as this one was Dawn of War. And so we set up and he went first. And so I was like, all right, I need to worry about 2 things in this list. Well, 3 things. The only 3 things in his list that scared me were the eradicators, the rhino full of multi-meltas, and the plasma scepters. Those are the 3 things I need to worry about. Nothing else in that list does anything to me. Like it's all, I'm just going to trade, and every time I trade with it, I'm going to win. Because he had 5, or I think he had 4 Blade Guard vets, but like they're slow. They're going to go to the middle. I'm going to send some rock saws or some rock cutters. I'm going to get rid of them. So the 3 things I need to worry about are the 3 shooty big things, because those kill Ridge Runners. Nothing else is going to get to my Ridge Runners to kill them. Everything else I can like just screen out or kill once it does.
Yep.
So this was the one where we had those big, huge U things that we were talking about earlier, and they were on the sides of the game. So it's this Dawn of War. They pretty much covered up the entire no man's land middle, or sorry, on the edges. So those were just covered up by these huge U's. So he drove one of his rhinos up the left side, and then he moved his eradicators up to the right side one. So his eradicators were on the right, his multi-meltas and the rhino were up on the left. All of my Ridge Runners pretty much popped up on the left side. 6 of them did, 3 of them were on the right side, because it was Dawn of War. I didn't really have much place to put them. So 6 were there. And then he moved his Vanguard vets also up in that little section. And he moved and advanced them and charged them. Or he did something to get them super far. And then he charged my Ridge Runners. And he tied 3 of them up in his charge, in his turn 1. And that was pretty much all he did. So he charged the Ridge Runners. I think he did some damage. I don't think he killed a single one when he charged them. But he tied them up. So now they're in melee. And then he moved his other stuff kind of like up the midfield a little bit. So I was like, okay, those are pretty much in my face. Now I have to deal with that. So I fell back. I moved my Ridge Runners up. I popped out 10 acolytes. I shot them to the left corner to deal with that rhino, because the rhino was in that big U on the left side. And then his eradicators were on the right. So I just sent a 10-man over there to kill him, because like 10 eradicators, what are they going to do? Overwatch and kill 2 basic acolytes, and then the rest are just going to eat your guys. Yeah. So and then I was going to be on the inside of a U. So that was even better, because now he's got to send something in there to deal with them, which is even harder for him. So I do that. I kill his eradicators. I don't kill them all. I kill all but one. One lives because he transhumans. And then I kill only 2 of the... I made a mistake. He had his 5-man Vanguard that charged my Ridge Runners. Only 2 of them were outside the big U. So when I killed the first 2 or 3 or whatever, the other ones were hiding, so I couldn't actually attack them. And then, so I was like, great, they're just going to come and tag me again on his turn, but that's fine, because I already had a plan. What I was going to do is when he charged them again, I was just going to smite them out with my 2 smites. So I wasn't that worried. I charged his rhino with all of his multi-meltas, and I didn't want to kill it. I almost did. I left it down to 1 wound, but I wanted to wrap it. And I wrapped it, and at the same time I wrapped it, I also killed his chaplain on bike that was right next to it, which is huge. So I insta-killed his chaplain with the rock cutters, and I did all but 1 wound to the rhino, because I didn't want them to have a chance to get out, because you can't emergency disembark without your thing blowing up. So there's no way he could actually get his multi-meltas out on his turn. So he moved his other 5-man over to deal with them. So they went over, they killed all of them, but now he had a rhino with 1 wound left all the way back there with some multi-meltas. His 2 Vanguard vets came out and touched 2 of my Ridge Runners. He moved his plasma scepters up, and then he used his 5-man assault squad, I think, and they're in the back right, or whatever the incursors are, or whatever, that have like the knives or whatever. And he charged the 10-man acolytes on the right side. So he had 2 melees he charged with, and then he blew up 1 or 2 Ridge Runners with the plasma scepters, and then he moved to the center with his Blade Guard, because I killed what he had in the center earlier with a 5-man acolyte squad. So the plan pretty much went right into my favor. Exactly what I knew he was going to do to counter me, I was already prepared for. And then when he charged my acolytes on the right and left, he had to choose which one was going to survive, because if he chooses one, I'm going to interrupt and kill the other one.
Exactly.
So he chose to kill the ones on the left that were tied up the rhino, just immediately mulch them because 5 Vanguard vets are going to kill 10 acolytes, no problem. And then I killed his entire unit on the right side, so he had nothing left. So then that was just a wasted squad he charged me with, which is good. Then I smited out his 2 guys that were in melee with the Ridge Runners, so those could shoot. Pretty much mopped up most of his Plasma Scepters. I think he had 1 left when I was done. I started doing some pling shots into his middle unit, because that's where he had Khan, his Psyker. Oh no, he had Khan, his Apothecary, and then the 4 Blade Guard vets. So I sent out another 10 man to go deal with them, and I did some pling shots at them. And then I just left the multi-meltas on the left alone, because it's like the rhinos got 1 wound. They can only move out 9 inches, and they have very limited range. So I'm not too worried. Like at this point, my Ridge Runners are going to kill most of his stuff, and then they're going to kill 2 or 3 Ridge Runners, and then I kill them. So I wasn't too worried at that point. And then my acolytes on the right side were just chilling in the corner essentially, because they killed everything that was over in the back right corner. So they just started moving towards the center. I killed the 10-man acolytes, moved up, killed all 3 Blade Guard, killed his Apothecary at the same time, and then his Khan intervened, and I just ignored him, and then he killed some acolytes. So then near the end of the game, he pretty much just had, I think he had 1 Plasma Scepter in the back and like 3 multi-meltas on my side. And then that was all he had left. Oh, and then the Psyker, and that was all he had left on the field. It was like a closest game, but like it was me in the driver's seat the whole time. I wasn't too worried, because that huge play he made in the very turn 1 was, he even said it, like that was a huge mistake. And the moment he moved his guys there, like you moved Eradicators behind a wall to the right where I can just charge and kill them. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
So that was how that game went. I think I won that one pretty good too. I think I was in the 80s, wasn't I?
That one was wrong way. No, you still got 90.
Oh, okay.
90 to 56. This was probably your highest scoring GT.
Yeah.
Because as a cult player, we win, but we typically don't score super high.
Yeah, I was scoring. I think almost every single win was almost a 90 or higher that I had. I was doing really well. Like that little tweak I made to my list was just working out perfectly.
Yeah, all your wins were 90 plus, but all your losses were really bad.
Yep. And then we'll go to the last game.
And that was against my nemesis.
Mine too.
He beat me in game 2, which should have been a hand me game. Like I should have just handed him his models, but I have never had the dice go against me so bad, and it's closer than I've come closer in that game than I ever have to just rage quitting. And I'm a calm and cool, collected, fun guy to play with.
You are.
I had to apologize to my buddy John Camacho. I'm like, look, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the game.
which is funny, because if you would have beat him, that could have been you versus me.
It could have been. I had a heck of a fun time just trouncing everybody I played against. It was hella fun.
And he's my nemesis, because the first time we ever played against each other, I beat him, and then he beat me, and so we were like, this is the tiebreaker. We each won one.
Yeah. And John had a unique list. It was Custodes. So again, all your losses.
Custodes.
He had Shield Captain with Terminator armor. He had Contemptor Dreadnought, a Contemptor Dreadnought, another Contemptor Dreadnought, another Contemptor. Sorry, those first 3 were Achilles or Achilles. I'm not sure how you say it. And then he had 2 Contemptor Galatus Dreadnoughts. He had a Vexilus Creator and Terminator armor, and he had 2 Telemons. Oh, and he had a detachment of Scions with blah 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 blah. He had a Tempestus command squad with Meltas, and then 3 just generic 5-man squads to go and do things.
Yeah, he pretty much had his Terminators were 3 different types of, or his Dreadnoughts were 3 different types of Dreadnoughts. 2 of them were huge Dreadnoughts with a bunch of shooting and really scary melee and like 14 or 15 wounds or something like that. It was a lot of wounds. And then he had a bunch of little ones. He had ones with swords and shields, which were always -1 to hit, or -1 to hit in melee, I think, actually. And then he had ones with spears that were not -1 to hit, but they were... I think they had flamers on there instead. So it was like, you get a pick.
Each one of his dreads had both a ranged weapon and a close combat weapon. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. And this is the last mission, which was weird angled ones, kind of. It's the one where you get to move objectives.
Yes, that's one of my favorites because it's like, oh, look, I'm going to take the mission and get 15 points automatically.
Yeah, which is we were joking. We both took the same 3 primaries without, or same 3 secondaries. We did the normal thing where like you pick them without the other person knowing, and we revealed them. I know that not a lot of people do that, but that's what we did, and they were the exact same 3. It was scramblers, the mission, and then engage on all fronts. And we're just like, okay, this is gonna be dumb. So the first 2 turns, we scored the exact same thing. So he scored the exact same points, then I'd score the exact same points. Then he'd score the exact same points, and I'd score the exact same points. But at this point, he's getting awfully close to my army because he is hard to kill. And then this is the turn where it all fell apart. Because what happened is I shot all of my Ridge Runners and I did a single damage with all of my mining lasers. A single damage with all of my mining lasers.
Sounds familiar to me. It's about what happened with me.
Yeah, and it was on one of his little baby dreads.
Exactly. Not even the Telemon. One of the T7 dreads. Not the T8 dread, the T7 dread.
Yep. So I did exactly 1 damage. I did do 4 damage with my stubbers somehow. So all my stubbers did 4 damage, and all of the lascans did a single damage.
So dumb.
Yeah. Which I was just like, all of this should kill 1. And so that was a pretty big deal. I tried to recover, but then the next turn, I left a single Scion alive. I went to kill him. A single Scion lived because I shot some stuff at it, but I was like, oh, this should be plenty, like overkill it easily. And it left 1 alive. And then I got 2 dreadnoughts down to 1 wound each, and then 1 down to 2 wounds each in melee after I charged them. So they swung back and killed my stuff. And then at that point, he was just in my face. I couldn't do anything. So it was literally just the exact same thing that happened last time. Like he just made a little bit more saves, then he just spiked a little, not even that crazy. Other than the lascan's doing only 1 damage, obviously. But everything else like spiked just a little bit high in melee. And every time I sent in a 10-man Acolyte squad with full buffs, I would kill it all the way down to like 1 wound. His guy would kill all my guys back, and then he would just move forward.
Yep.
It was, if it just went just a little bit more average, it would have been easy on my side. So both the Custode lasses they just did a little bit more invul saves than I could, and that was it.
So nuts. Like my game against him should have just been a trouncing. Oh, I still send him hate texts over it.
So, which is funny because every single time any Mira Camachos played Gene Cult against the other person, that person lost. So when he played against me, he lost. And the 2 times I played against him, I lost. So I was like, man, whoever plays Gene Cult at our games loses. Yeah, that was pretty much my game. I mean, I would have done a lot better if just a little bit. So I don't think there's anything with the list. There's a little things I could fix up here and there, but most of it was just a little bit unlucky on a couple key invulnerable saves. A lot of them being 4-ups. I mean, the captain was all 3-ups, but just a little swing on a little 4-up invulns, and then everything would have been the exact opposite. It was pretty good though. So I think my list can actually handle most lists pretty solidly. So we'll see how it does when I go up to Dallas in a couple weeks. But do you want to go over your stuff real fast? Then we can.
I mean, I'll just give a brief overview. I don't have to go through every single list that I went against, but
I figured since I was actually Gene Cult and a Gene Cult podcast, I'd go a little bit more in depth.
Yeah. So I took orcs, as we said earlier, my Murica-themed redneck orcs, and I wanted to take a list that I didn't have to, break my back over moving, which is typically Gene Cult, because my list usually has around 150 models in it. So my orc list, despite having 75 grots, had 18 smasher guns, 3 grot mega tanks, 1 war boss on bike, a weird boy, and a big mech with a custom force field, and a 10-man unit of Ludos with a spanner, so that I could roll 2 dice to figure out how many shots I had. And I had only practiced this list like 3 times, but again, I didn't take this list anticipating doing nearly as well as I did, just based off my practice games, because I lost half of them. I think I had like 4 practice games and I lost half of those. So when it just started tabling my opponents, I was quite surprised and quite happy. And what the funniest thing was, when I deployed, I didn't wait for my opponent to, your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, because my army literally took up my entire deployment zone for every deployment. It was hilarious, which was great because you couldn't deep strike in my deployment zone. I didn't see any flyers at this GT, so it's not like I was worried about anything flying into my deployment zone. You just couldn't get into my deployment zone. So that was great. There's no, you can't take behind enemy lines against me.
Or scramblers, unless you murder a lot of your stuff.
It's a great list. And I trounced my first opponent, and then my second opponent was John Camacho, and I went first. And in the table that we had, I could literally see everything in his. And if you don't know what smasher guns are, they have 48-inch range. It's AP4, and
it's invulnerable save.
Yeah. Well, everybody took invulnerable saves if they had them against them. And it's D6 damage. And in order to wound you, I have to match or beat your toughness on 2D6. And so, I typically do not roll high as it is. So rolling 7s and 8s against John Camacho is tough. But I went first, and I was able to shoot all 18 smasher guns on both of my, first and second turn. So that's 36 smasher gun shots, which are D3 shots apiece. As grot mobs, so I get to reroll a 1, and I have exploding 6s. And
can you use the strat to give him exploding 5s?
I don't know, but I wouldn't, because it's only D3 shots. But I didn't even kill one baby knight.
One baby dread.
Yeah, I think I got it down to like 2 wounds, and that's with 36 of my smasher gun.
Was it a mix, or was it more of him saving, or was it more of you not wounding?
So I spent in turn 1, and we both commented on it, me and John. I was like, well, so that was 10 smasher guns that I just fired that didn't wound you at all.
I bet he was loving it.
I was getting increasingly frustrated over and over again that I couldn't do anything. And it wasn't because I'm playing poorly. It's just because the law of averages were working so far against me. It was just, ripping pieces of my soul out and throwing it on the ground. And what made me almost quit the game, and I've never rage quit a game before, so this was bad. He had a Telemon with 5 wounds left, so it was degraded, and I had a souped up war boss on a bike with all the goodies on it. So I drove him up there, charged him, and he basically has written his Telemon off because at that point it only has like a 5-up invulnerable save in close combat. And I wounded him 6 times, or I hit him 6 times, wounded him 6 times, and he rolled all 5s and 6s, and then proceeded to hit me twice and wound me twice, and I failed both of my 4-up invulnerable saves. Well, Telemon does 4 damage per attack, so it killed my war boss.
Oh my god!
I died inside, and I almost walked away. I did walk away. I was like, I'm gonna go get a drink, and I drank. It was like a couple swigs of my Jack Daniels I had with me, and then I came back and I apologized, and we continued to play, and I continued to be depressed.
That's awful.
It's literally the worst game I've ever had, and I can safely say it wasn't because of how I played it. I didn't make mistakes. I just couldn't do anything. But I wasted all my bad luck on game 2, and then every other game was a walk in the park except for my very last game, which was surprisingly against Black Templar, which I think we are going to be seeing a lot more of. And the more skilled the player, the better the army is going to do. Because this Black Templar list and this player, he knew what he was doing. The game ended up being 95-90 in my favor, and I was sweating balls the whole game.
Was that the guy from Florida?
His name's Jeff something. Let me take a peek.
Was he Art of War?
Give him a shout out, because again, he just made me sweat the whole time. Super nice guy. Oh, not Jeff. Jack Harper, or Jack Harpster. Yep.
Was he Art of War?
I don't know.
I know. I just know that one of them brought up a Black Templar list. So I wasn't sure if that was him.
Let's see. Yep, he's Art of War.
Okay, so is that guy. Okay.
Yep. I was his only loss, and he scored relatively high for most of his games. He got like a 57 and a 76, but other than that, everything was above 85 points, and his loss was 90 points. So
that's so crazy.
It's so great. But to top off the tournament, I got Best General, which got me one of the amazing what are those cases are that I won?
I don't know, but I have one too. I just don't know what it's called. I have the one that Nathan got, but he couldn't take it.
Yeah. So Naden won and got the big version of that case, the black one that has the see-through front cover with the slide-out trays with the metal, you can put stuff on them.
And the cup holders on the side.
I didn't get the cup holder. I'm very upset with that. And I apologize to the company for not remembering the name since I have two of their cases now. But he flew here, and the big case and the big trophy that he won, which was this giant warhammer, weren't going to fit on the plane. So I was like, hey, these will both fit on the plane.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, all right, deal. And so I basically got all the first place prizes, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he got a lot of stuff for getting first. There's pretty good prize support for first place.
There really was. I mean, it was the first major GT of the year. Well, over the last 2 years.
Yeah, right.
So I made out like a bandit and had a great tournament, except for game 2.
Yeah, I got best Gene Circle player because I was the only one there. But I probably would have, even though, because I went 4-2. But I also won. They did pods, which were a new thing. I think the way it worked, I'm not 100% sure. But after round 3, they took the 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30, all the way down. And then they made you in like a separate pod. It had nothing to do with the tournament where you were, but whoever placed the highest the next day, you were the highest in your pod. So since I think I was in pod 2, since I placed the highest, then I won my pod, so to speak. It had nothing to do with like where I placed in terms of like who I played or anything like that. It was just like a side thing, almost like a side bet kind of. So I won my pod and I got first.
And I also got best sportsman.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
I thought you got something else.
Yeah, I did. I got best general and I got best sportsman.
I thought Steve got best sportsman.
What?
I thought Steve got best. Oh no, you got player's choice.
Is that what I got? Player's choice?
I don't know. One of you guys. Yeah, that's what you got. You got player's choice army.
Either or.
Yeah, everyone liked your army a lot. I think that's what you won. So
the America Orcs, and I dressed accordingly.
Yeah. I think I got pretty close in that one as well because I had a lot of people coming up to me and trying to take pictures of my list. It was like the most I've ever had it happen. I know Mark Perry came over and like literally brought other people at multiple times to come see my army because it's fully converted.
I think what sealed the deal for you not getting it is you decided to convert your Gene Stealer cult with Tau.
Hey, at least they're both F-tier armies. They're consistent.
You are both F-tier armies rolled into one.
Yeah. That's why it's such a struggle down here.
Oh man,
but
that's so great.
That's pretty much it, though. I'm not really sure if there's much else. So I think I did pretty well. I wish I would have went 5-1. I mean, both the games I lost were pretty close. Just like how your one loss was really close. Just a little bit dice not in our favor, but can't be too upset at a dice in a dice game.
No, you can't.
I don't think I'll do nearly as well in Dallas because your terrain is a little bit less, and it's going to be harder for me to hide my stuff, I think, unfortunately.
The terrain at Dallas Open is definitely thematic, and there are people that love it, and there are people that hate it.
Yeah. I just said it's a little bit. There's a lot more firing lanes, I think, is the better way to say it.
I would say that there's always a spot that you can be shot.
Yeah.
On Dallas Open tables, there's no table that's like, oh, you can't shoot me turn 1.
Yeah, exactly. Where at Clutch there were some places you could like get it, so it was pretty like they'd have to get a really good angle to get some shots on.
Yeah, but I'm excited. Dallas Open is 4/29 through 5/2. If you haven't bought your ticket, I would definitely do so because it's going to be a huge tournament with probably 256 people. So bring your ibuprofen, your knee support if you're going to be standing a lot like me, and a lot of alcohol will be nice as well.
What he didn't just say, though, is he said some dates, but he didn't explain. It's a 3-day event.
Yes.
It's a 3-day event.
3-day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 7 games, 2, 5, 2, right?
That's way more than 7.
I play Orcs now, so math is tough.
Yeah, 2, 3, 2.
2, 3, 2. So yeah, it's going to be a very long weekend, but it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be in Dallas. So if you're bored, there's always something to do, and there's tons of good food.
Yeah, I think that's all we have. I think, and then after that, we got Alamo, and then that's it for a little bit in our area.
Yeah, I mean, all of our tournaments really bump up real close to each other, so it's a hectic first few months, and then you get a breather, and then if you want to travel, you can.
Oh yeah, I'll be doing that, but we'll talk about that maybe in the future podcasts.
Excellent.
So that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for coming in, and we'll talk to you later.
Later, guys.
Bye.